Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram Vishnupad, Paramahamsa, Parvajikacharya, Sutra Sata, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki, Iskand Brother Church, Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Sikha Hosh Krishna Chaitanya Purnityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shamakun Radhikun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Bhaktaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Samveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Thakur Nandi, all glories to some devotees, all glories to some devotees, all glories to some devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Narayana Namaskritya. Ram Chaiva Narotamam. Devim Saraswatam Vyasam. Jayam Udirayat. Nastaparishu Bhadreshu. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttamashoke. Bhaktir Bhagavati Neshtaki. So today we're reading from Canto 4, Chapter 24, titled Chanting the Song Sung by Lord Shiva. Today we'll be doing text 31 and 32. Pretty short text. Alright, so idam vivictam japtavyam pavitra mangalam param nishreyasya karam chapi Shruyatam tadvidamiva idam vivictam japtavyam pravitram mangalam param nishreyasya karam chapi Shruyatam tadvidamiva idam vivictam japtavyam pavitram mangalam param nishreyasya karam japi Shruyatam tadvidamiva. Please chant this.
Idam viviktam japtavyam pavitram mangalam param nishreyasya karam chapi kritam tadvadamila
Idam viviktam japtavyam
pavitram mangalam param
nishreyasya karam chapi Shruyatam tadvidamiva
idam viviktam japtavyam pavitram mangalam param nishreyasya karam chapi
Alright, word for word. Idam, this. Vivictam, very, particular. Japtavyam, always to be chanted. Pavitram, very pure. Mangalam, auspicious. Param, transcendental. Nishreyasya, karam, very beneficial. Cha, also. Api, certainly. Shruyatam, please hear. Tat, that. Vadami, I am speaking. Vaha, unto you. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Now I shall chant one mantra, which is not only transcendental, pure, and auspicious, but is the best prayer for anyone who is aspiring to obtain the ultimate goal of life. When I chant this mantra, please hear it carefully and attentively. Please repeat. Now I shall chant one mantra, which is not only transcendental, pure and auspicious, but is the best prayer for anyone who is aspiring to attain the ultimate goal of life. When I chant this mantra, please hear it carefully and attentively. Purport. The word vivictam is very significant. No one should think of the prayers recited by Lord Shiva as being sectarian. Rather, they are very confidential. So much so that anyone desiring the ultimate prosperity or auspicious goal of life must take the instructions of Lord Shiva and pray and glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Lord Shiva himself did. Text 32. My true Vajra Ethan. Oh, we can do it. That's okay. Atraya Vacha, Itanu Krosha Hridayo, Bhagavana Hakanchiva, Vadanjalin Rajaputran, Narayana Padavacha. Alright, so translation for this one. The great sage Maitreya continued. Out of his causeless mercy, the exalted personality, Lord Shiva, a great devotee of Lord Narayana, continued to speak to the king's sons, who were standing with folded hands. Purport. Lord Shiva voluntarily came to bless the sons of the king, as well as do something beneficial for them. He personally chanted the mantra so that the mantra would be more powerful. He advised that the mantra be chanted by the king's sons, Rajaputras. When a mantra is chanted by a great devotee, the mantra becomes more powerful. Although the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is powerful in itself, a disciple upon initiation receives the mantra from his spiritual master. For when the mantra is chanted by the spiritual master, it becomes more powerful. Lord Shiva advised the sons of the king to hear him attentively, for inattentive hearing is offensive. Alright. Omagyanatranam Dashagana Janashnakaya Chaksharam Muditamina Sashi Kurve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Visham Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamaya Didati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shiguru Shigita Parakamalam Shiguru Vaishnavam Shah Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarvadutam Prijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Shah Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Chakapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu State Devi Pranamami Hadikte Pancha Kalpatribishta Kriva Sindhu Deva Chapatitanam Pavne Vyo Vaishnavi Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Saripurna Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay. So these are the last two verses we have before Lord Shiva begins his mantra, or as we say, song sung by Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva is about to give a mantra to the sons of Prachinavari, because as we discussed previously, they're going to perform austerities, and so that they can enter the Grihastha ashram and become kings and Prajapatis. So on the order of their father, they've gone off to perform austerities, do devotional service to prepare themselves for that. And so Lord Shiva, seeing that they're pious, has come and stopped, and now he's going to give them this mantra or song, which is going to describe all of devotional service in about 30 verses. So it's going to go into who the Supreme Personality of Godhead is, his different energies, the association of devotees, devotion, the pure devotional services, all that. All that is going to be mentioned in these next 30 texts. So Lord Shiva is seeing that the sons of Prachinavari are ready for this. He's coming and he's speaking to them this Krishna conscious philosophy, and also it's so that they themselves can chant this mantra, this big song that he's about to sing, so that they can also take it with them. So this is similar to a pastime that we also read about, the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj. But one of the things that we see here is similar in this sense that the kings of Prachinavari are already inclined to devotional service. But in Dhruva Maharaj, he was also approaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So on both their paths, even though their motivations are a little bit different, but on their path, they both run into a pure devotee of the Lord. So Dhruva Maharaj, he ran into Narada Muni, and the sons of Prachinavari, they've run into Lord Shiva. So the Bhagavatam, or the Bhagavad Gita describes, also the Bhagavatam as well, that Sarvashachaham reading Sanavishto Matasmitra Jnanam Apohanam Cha. So Krishna is within everyone's heart, and from him come knowledge and remembrance, also forgetfulness as well. So Srila Prabhupada tells us that when one desires to understand the goals of life, Krishna is Paramatma within the heart. And he acts as Chaitya Guru. Actually, I was just reading a description yesterday about the Paramatma within the heart. It said that the Paramatma always has a smiling, happy face. And he's always very nicely dressed with many jewels and wearing yellow dhoti. Has forearms, club, conch, lotus, all within these arms. And she's sitting there waiting for the living entity. And so when the living entity desires to know what the purpose of their existence is, Chaitya Guru directs them to a bona fide spiritual master, or even if they're somewhat like Dhruva Maharaj, maybe you're not really wanting to know the purpose of material existence, maybe the Supreme Lord for some material benefit. Krishna is very merciful, and he can set you on the path to find a devotee of the Lord that can set you straight. Many people have come and they've approached Krishna for different reasons. And because they've come across a compassionate, pure devotee of the Lord, they have become purified. I have a very good friend once who told me that she went to the temple originally because she liked a guy that was going to the temple. And so the guy invited her. And so vice versa, I also know a guy that went to the temple for the first time because he liked this girl. You know, she's born in a devotee family, so they wanted to get with this girl. And in both circumstances, each of them met a very great soul and they became purified. The guy actually, he started dating this girl born in this devotee family. And so when she would bring him home, her parents would sit him down on the couch and talk. But during these conversations, they would preach to him about Krishna consciousness and talk to him about Bhagavad Gita. So one day he took a Bhagavad Gita, started reading the Bhagavad Gita, started taking prasada. Next thing you know, he's chanting Hare Krishna, becoming a very serious devotee, and actually became more serious than the girl. And she was... she had this mentality, kind of born in a devotee family, so why do I need to take initiation from a bona fide spiritual master, et cetera, et cetera. And so that relationship didn't work out because he became more serious and he took initiation and all that. In the same way, a friend of mine who's a girl, she also, came around to Krishna consciousness because she liked this guy. And then she became more serious than him. And then that relationship also didn't work out. She got initiated by I think Subhagraj, and is living in Mayapur now. Been in Mayapur for several years. So anyway, one point that while I'm bringing this up is that Krishna, he's desiring to bring every living entity back to him, and so the power of a devotee of the Lord. It has this ability to really reach into the heart of the conditioned soul and set them on the course of Krishna consciousness. So actually, it's mentioned here that Lord Shiva is chanting this mantra because the mantra becomes more powerful. So traditionally, with Diksha, there was no, like here in ISKCON, now we have what's known as Harinam Diksha. But traditionally, you didn't take Diksha for Harinam. Diksha was what we now call Brahman initiation. So you you went to the spiritual master and you got some mantras. And these mantras, they had to be given to you from a bona fide guru. Otherwise, they wouldn't have any potency. So, like often we hear with the Gayatri mantras that we chant, they say, if you chant it and you are not, you don't get the mantra from your spiritual master, then what happens? It has no effect. It doesn't have the same power, which is why, the Gayatris are chanted silently. We don't chant them out loud for everyone to hear. So I actually had a friend once who was like going to go look up the Gayatri mantras that that we chant, and because he really wanted to know what everybody was chanting 3 times a day when they put their hand under their kurta or their sari or whatnot. He was like, I really want to know. And so he goes online and starts to look it up, but he clicks on this website and it's telling him, before you go down and read this mantra, if you don't have the proper initiation, the mantras really aren't going to have much effect for you. They have to be given to you from a spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession. So that's how Diksha was a lot back in the day. You had to get these mantras from a guru. And so there's this wonderful story of Ramanujacharya. The Vaishnavas, they have all compassion. And Ramanujacharya, he took initiation from Nambi, his name was? Wait, something Nambari. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so he, his spiritual master, the one that he did, Nambi, that's his name. Okay, so he found his spiritual master. He wanted to take initiation from him. So he walks a very long journey to get to the spiritual master. And the spiritual master doesn't initiate him at first, makes him go all the way back and then come back 8 times. And so finally, he accepts him as his disciple. And he initiates him into this mantra. And he tells his disciple Ramanuja, don't give this mantra out to anyone. And this mantra, it had the holy name of the Lord in it. Anybody know what this mantra was? Om Namo Narayana. So Ramanuja, though, he had this very big heart. And he started to chant this mantra, and he noticed this mantra was very powerful. And so getting power from this mantra, this power in the sense of like spiritually powerful, helping in devotional service. And so feeling and receiving the benefits of chanting this mantra, he wanted to give it out to everybody. So he goes into the big town square and he calls everybody out to meet him in public. And he's like, hey, everybody, chant this mantra. Repeat after me. Om Namo Narayana. Everybody starts chanting this mantra. They all become very happy and blissful. But then the guru of Ramanuja, first he becomes very upset. Why did you disobey my orders? One of the offenses is to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. But Ramanuja said, okay, then, well, let me go to hell. They're chanting, I want all of them to have the mercy of chanting this mantra. So, but Ramanuja, the thing is, what his spiritual master really wanted. He knew the heart of his spiritual master, which was to ultimately deliver all the fallen conditioned souls. So disobeying the orders of the spiritual master should not be done whimsically, unless you really know. But it's an example. And then his spiritual master actually was very pleased with him, seeing that he had this big heart to deliver all the fallen conditioned souls. And so through the power of Ramanuja, so many people started chanting this mantra. So, in the similar way in Kali Yuga, because we're very fallen, and everybody basically is on the level of Sudra. We've been given this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra for us to chant, and this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is so powerful. There are some wonderful verses in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that are talking about this mantra, and I'll read just a few because it's very nice to meditate on this. So this is in Madhya Lila, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is speaking here. And he says, whoever chants the holy name of Krishna just once is worshipful and is the topmost human being. Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna once, a person is relieved from the reactions of sinful life. One can complete the 9 processes of devotional service simply by chanting the holy name. One does not have to undergo initiation or execute the activities required before initiation. One simply has to vibrate the holy name with his lips. Thus, even a man in the lowest class Chandala can be delivered. By chanting the holy name of the Lord, one dissolves his entanglement in material activities. After this, one becomes very much attracted to Krishna, and thus dormant love for Krishna is awakened. The holy name of the Lord is an attractive feature for many saintly liberal people. It is the annihilator of all sinful reactions, and is so powerful that save for the dumb who cannot it, it is readily available to everyone, including the lowest of men, the Chandala. The holy name of Krishna is the controller of the opulence of liberation, and it is identical with Krishna. When a person chants the holy name with his tongue, immediate effects are produced. Chanting the holy name does not depend on initiation. Pious activities are pushara, regulative principles, generally observed before initiation. The holy name does not wait for any of these activities. It is self-sufficient. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then finally advised, one who is chanting the Hare Krishna mantra is understood to be a Vaishnava. Therefore, you should offer all respects to him. So the holy name is so powerful that even if one hasn't been initiated or one hasn't been purified, it has effects. Otherwise, there would be no point in us going on Harinam. Because if you had to, if the holy name was secret, you had to get it in the ear from a bona fide spiritual master, it wouldn't have any effect, it wouldn't really be useful for all the fallen conditioned souls. So the holy name is so powerful that even if you're not quite initiated yet, if you just take up this process of starting to chant it, then gradually purification starts to take place. And we notice that when one comes to the temple as a bhakta or bhaktin, and they're just starting out, we tell them chant. In the beginning, Prabhupada told his disciples to chant the holy name. He didn't introduce so many rules and regulations at first. He just got them to chant and take prasada. And by this process, they gradually became purified. And then they were ready for more. And then they took initiation. And then he introduced rules and regulations and so forth. And then later came Diksha, what we refer to as Brahmin initiation. With that said, though, Prabhupada does mention in a purport here that even though the holy name within itself is very powerful, it doesn't depend on initiation. When one undergoes the process of taking initiation from a spiritual master and engages in deity worship simultaneously along with chanting the holy name, then they can make progress very quickly. Because Jiva Goswami mentioned, Prabhupada says, yes, the holy name does not depend on initiation if one chants it offenselessly. But quite often, we don't have the knowledge in Kali Yuga to be able to chant the holy name, avoiding the 10 offenses. So therefore, we take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, and you'll notice, just by hearing the chanting of pure souls, you yourself start to feel that you're becoming more purified. And so the spiritual master, he gives us knowledge. Okay, this is how you chant. Avoid these 10 offenses. Don't blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives to the holy name of the Lord. Don't consider the demigods equal to or independent of Vishnu. Don't disobey the orders of the spiritual master. Don't blaspheme the Vedic literatures or literatures in pursuance of the Vedic literatures. Don't consider the glories of the holy name to be imagination. Don't give some mundane interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. Don't consider the holy name of the Lord to be like other mantras, for processes for karma kanda. Don't give the holy name of the Lord to a faithless person. And don't maintain material attachments, even after understanding all the instructions on this. And also, don't be inattentive. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he talks about this inattentiveness and chanting the holy name of the Lord. And with this inattentiveness, so many other offenses come. Because this holy name is very purifying, but we have to be very attentive when we're chanting it. Otherwise, if we're not attentive, the full effect doesn't get there. And what happens is that weeds can grow. Desires for profit, distinction, and adoration can grow within the heart of us, which are things that we need purified to be able to chant purely. Also, when one is chanting inattentively, because that purification is not taking place, then you open yourself up to being very easily agitated and offended over everything. And then what happens is that then you'll make offenses to other Vaishnavas. And somebody will say something to you, and then you'll get very upset about it, and then you'll say something, then you'll make some offense to them, and then you just blaspheme devotees who dedicate their lives to propagating the holy name of the Lord. And so then that offense comes. And then later the other offenses can start taking place. Like I've heard of devotees that have even started, they were devotees of Krishna, but then, they started, because of this inattentive chanting, material desires started growing, and then they started worshiping demigods. Off of the excuse of, well, we shouldn't approach Krishna for material desires. Therefore, I'm going to go to Ganesh. Therefore, I'm going to go to Shiva. Therefore, I'm going to go, And so they're, and they make all the excuses to do this type of thing. And then the disobeying of the orders of the spiritual master comes in. So many of the offenses come in, and what can happen is that we choke our bhakti creeper, and we can go right away from devotional service. So this attentive chanting, it has to be there. It's so important. Japa is our chanting is not something that we do just so that we can get to our actual service, but it is our most important service of the day, because it sets your mind in the proper in the proper set, puts you at least in the mode of goodness, so that you have a chance to transcend to pure goodness. And if you're chanting purely, it can put you in pure goodness. But if you're waking up and you're chanting just to get it done, because I have to go do this or I have to go do that, it's not going to have the desired effect, which is why sometimes you can see people go on chanting for years, go on chanting for lifetimes, and you see there's not much humility there, very easily offended, make offenses to all the devotees, and very, you can see they haven't really progressed much. And so if you're wondering how one can stick around for so many years and still not have, Vaishnava qualities, it's most likely due to offensive chanting, or inattentive chanting. So anyway, in our devotional service, we should always be attentive to all services, but it starts with our chanting. By attentive chanting, we can be attentive to everything else. And you'll notice, I've noticed myself, the power of chanting japa is much greater when we're attentive in it. I've noticed on days where I'm not so attentive versus on days where I go sit in a quiet place and chant my rounds, my mind is completely different when I make an effort to do it right. But sometimes life happens, and you're like, okay, I got 8 more rounds to chant. I gotta get it done because I vowed to get it done. Whatever, But that can happen, and often that does happen, especially when we have a lot of other service. But we should make the endeavor to try and chant nicely. Actually, it said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that of all the orders of the spiritual master, or chanting japas, the one that's the most important. So that's why you see some devotees, they'll do these different types of japa retreats, japa seminars, give techniques for us on how to chant attentively. Because really, that having that connection with the holy name, that's everything. And that can really, save us. That can save us. That can purify us. I mean, even looking at Ajamil, we see that he was a Brahmana, and he followed all these rules and regulations. The Jibber said in the class once that thing about Ajamil is before he fell down, he wasn't chanting the holy name, and so we see he had some lusty desires in his heart. So it caused him to fall down when he saw this sutra with this prostitute. And the reason why this story is told actually is because Shukadeva Swami, before this story, he's in the 5th canto, and he's talking about the hellish planets and all the sinful activities that one commits, and what happens when one commits these sinful activities, and what hellish planet they go to, and what type of punishment they receive. So if you guys have read the 5th canto, it's the very last chapter. Very heavy. Very, very heavy. And so Maharaj Parikshit, hearing this, and being, because he's a devotee, he's a compassionate person, he's a little bit disturbed by this. And he says, well, how can these people be delivered? And then he starts talking about atonement. And how, the Manu Samhita and the other scriptures, they have these processes for atonement. But what good is atonement if you get forgiveness for your sinful activities, but yet your consciousness doesn't change? That's why Prabhupada mentions in this purport how the Manu Samhita will have these different things for one to get atonement for their sinful activities. So this is why devotees who are very big on Manu Samhita. Yeah, Manu Samhita, we follow it as much as Prabhupada gave to us. But not everything in the Manu Samhita we follow, because it has these processes for atonement for sinful activities. But our goal is not to get atonement for our sinful activities, but we want to kill the consciousness that's causing the sinful activities in the first place. That's what Lord Chaitanya came to do. It said in Kali Yuga, Prabhupada mentioned this in one lecture, that the weapons in Kali Yuga, Krishna doesn't come to kill the demons, but our weapons are kartals and mridanga, because it's meant to kill the demoniac mentality within the individual in the age of Kali Yuga, which is done by the chanting of the Maha Mantra. So there's these very beautiful verses that the Vishnu Dutas tell the Yamadutas when they come to deliver Ajamil. And at this point in the story, Ajamil, he's already engaged in a very, very long sinful life, committing so many robberies, committing so many sinful activities to try to maintain his lifestyle. I mean, this is a Vedic society. And when Ajamil went after that prostitute, he kicked he neglected his parents, kicked them out. He got rid of his wife and just housed this prostitute for many, many years, and did so many illicit activities in order to try to maintain her. And here he is, 80 years old. He has a small child, which lets you know that he was having children even in his old age. And he still has this small child, and he's on his deathbed. But he had at least some sense to name his son Narayan. So when he's at the moment of death, and he sees the Yamadutas coming for him, he chants this name of Narayan. And then the Vishnu Dutas, they come and they stop. And the Yamadutas are like, what's going on here? This person, Ajamil, one of the things that they're saying is he didn't atone for any of his sinful activities. Because like I just mentioned in the Vedas, they have these processes for atonement. And so the Yamadutas are looking at it and going, he didn't do this process. So therefore we have every right to take him. But then the Vishnu Dutas, they say this. Let me get back to it. A lot of nice verses. But yeah, I'll just read a few of them. Okay. Ajamil has already atoned for all of his sinful actions. Indeed, he has atoned not only for sins performed in one life, but for those performed in millions of lives. For in a helpless condition, he chanted the holy name of Narayan, even though he did not chant purely. He chanted without offense, and therefore he is now pure and eligible for liberation. The Vishnu Dutas continued. Even previously, while eating and at other times, his Ajama would call his son, saying, "My dear Narayana, please come here." Although calling the name of his son, he nevertheless uttered the 4 syllables Narayana. Simply by chanting the name of Narayan, in this way, he sufficiently atoned for the sinful reactions of millions of lives. The chanting of the holy name of Vishnu is the best process of atonement for a thief of gold or other valuables, a drunkard, for one who betrays a friend or relative, for one who kills a brahmana, or for one who indulges in sex with the wife of his guru. Back then, the gurus were mostly grihastas, and the guru might have a very young wife, so this happened sometimes. Or another superior. It is also the best method of atonement for one who murders women, the king, or his father, or for one who slaughters cows, and for all other sinful men. Simply by chanting the holy name of Lord Vishnu, such simple persons may attract the attention of the Supreme Lord, who therefore considers, because this man has chanted my holy name, my duty is to give him protection. By following the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies of undergoing atonement, sinful men do not become as purified as by once chanting the holy name of Lord Hari. Although ritualistic atonement may free one from sinful reactions, it does not awaken devotional service, which reminds one of the Lord's fame, qualities, attributes, pastimes, and paraphernalia. So there are many nice verses, but this is just a few of them. And so there's actually another verse in the Bhagavatam that by the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, not only does it kill all sinful reactions, but it does so in such a way that it won't revive, because it changes one's consciousness. By this attentive chanting of the holy name of the Lord, one becomes attracted to Krishna's qualities, Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's attributes, and everything related to Krishna. And slowly, everything that is unfavorable for Krishna consciousness, the chanter has no desire to engage in those things. So therefore, how ultimately it kills all sinful reactions, but at the same time, most importantly, it changes the consciousness, which causes one to commit those sinful activities in the first place. Otherwise, Prabhupada says in the Nectar of Instruction that getting a type of atonement for a sinful activity and then engaging in the same process over and over again. He describes it like an elephant going to take a bath. I've never seen an elephant bathe. Well, actually, I have. And they go and they bathe, and then when they come out, they put dirt all over them again. So atonement doesn't work unless the consciousness actually changes. Otherwise, one will just commit sinful activities again. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because Lord Shiva is giving the sons of Prachini a mantra that they can chant for their advancement in devotional service. But in the same way for this age in Kali Yuga, even though this mantra, it's a very good mantra, and we should learn it. Javita Prabhu said when he first read this that he memorized all the prayers. But they're just like Krishna and Mathura. Krishna is perfect in Mathura, more perfect in Dwarka, and most perfect in Vrindavan. In the age of Kali Yuga, we have this Maha Mantra, which is the most perfect mantra for our deliverance. So when it's been given to us by Srila Prabhupada and by also other great Vaishnavas within this movement. So therefore, just like it says here, Lord Shiva chanted this mantra and it became more powerful. In the same way, we've been given this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra by pure devotees of the Lord, and it also has more power. So if we take this up with all sincerity, this stuff, that's being described here, it'll actually happen to us. But, it starts by actively trying to avoid these 10 offenses and we have to think too, when we're chanting, when we're doing this process, that this is service. This is my most important service. So I need to make time to do it right. Not that I'm doing this so I can go do service. Because our attention in all of our other services actually, it increases. We'll be more attentive in our other services if we're attentive in our japa. And that's been shown. I know devotees who are very strict about their japa. They're very attentive. They try to be as attentive as possible in it. And then when they do other things, you notice everything else is done very, very nicely, very, very expertly, very, very attentively. I've seen one devotee chant japa like very, very nicely, very, very attentively, and then they were cooking in the kitchen. And I noticed when they were cooking in the kitchen, they had this one pointed attention. They were very, very focused. Every little detail, never burned a thing. They just knew, okay, this is this. It's because they were very, very. First thing, they were very, very attentive in the holy name. So yeah, it's a good reminder for all of us. As Prabhupada mentions here at the end of the purport, Lord Shiva is advising them to hear attentively, for inattentive hearing is offensive. So, like these sons of Prachini Bari, we've been given a very nice opportunity. So, we should do our best to take it up. So, Vancha Kapatrudasha, Kripa Sindhi Bevacha, Patitanam Pavnego, Vaishavi Manamanaha. Yes.
Nice class, thank you. Jamuna says, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So you can judge very quickly someone if they're very attentive or does a good job with one thing, then you know that they're a good job with another thing. So it's a very good point about japa. Because we do it every day and because it's a long period, it's like we tend to like try to speed it up or try to cut corners or something. So it's always nice to be reminded, how important japa is and how it sets the pace for the day, in our mind and in our consciousness to really become absorbed as possible. And so we can go on with our other services. So thank you for that.
Actually, I heard from when I was taking the deity worship course, they said when we tend to cut corners, we tend to cut corners on the most important things. So when we cut corners there, we cut corners on cleanliness. And in japa, when we cut corners, it tends to be we're cutting corners with our attention.
We were talking this weekend, Guru Maharaj and myself were preaching, and there's one man there who chants a lot, really beautiful singer, but it's like people don't know, they're not informed. It's big loss because we said, actually there's 10 aparads in the matter of chanting the holy name, and it was like, it was the first time you heard this. And it was like, you could see this, like, kind of like it was like a big burst in your bubble, because you realize that this is not just some speculation. It's not just some concert.
Yeah.
This is, and we're, this is in the Padma Purana. All the acharyas say this. Sukadeva Goswami says, Etan nirvidyamananam ichitam akatobhayam yoganam nipranunatam harunam anukirtanam, that we have to chant the holy name following the great authorities. And so, it's important for us to, teach these things, these offenses, because there's a lot of pseudo spirituality or quasi devotional service out there, but the understanding these 10 offenses, it's a game changer. It's a big game changer in your chanting. Prabhupada says in one purport, that they may feel like they're getting some ecstasy, but they're just tasting their own bile secretions. In the Shisi, they're not tasting the actual Krishna consciousness.
Yes.
So I've always wondered about the story of Ajamil. Does it say like the reason the Vishnu Judas came was because he chanted the name of Narayana offenselessly in that moment?
Yeah, they said he did not chant it purely, but he chanted it offenseless.
Okay, all right. Well, that sort of answers my question, because I was wondering, like, how could it not necessarily be offensive if you're like, chanting the name Narayana, but you're not actually calling Narayana,
Right.
but okay, purely, but not purely. Okay, very good. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, because it was not offensive.
Yeah. Okay.
But even it says somewhere that even if somebody's chanting it like jokingly,
Right.
or they get purified. Yeah. Or if they're like you know, kind of making fun of devotees when they walk by on Harinam, you know.
Right.
Still looking to get some type of purification.
And then, does that mean when people talk about their truck, Dodge Ram, that, you know, they're getting a little bit purified? Because, you know, Ram is.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Or like Ramada Inn.
Yeah, the Ramada.
Yeah.
The CC says that one says one word, then it has Ram in the middle, and the whistle at the end or separate.
I believe it was Dutta told this story. I believe it was Valmiki Muni who, you know, the authored the Ramayana before he was like this thief and whatnot, really bad guy, and he couldn't even chant Rama. So he told him he chant Mara backwards, Mara, Mara, Mara. And then he started chanting. From that, he was able to chant Rama. Valmiki Muni, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Anything else before breakfast?
Oh, so that's how Krishna Kripa, not Krishna Kripa, sorry, Guru Kripa was Prabhupada's, you know, he helped build the Vrindavan temple. And he tells, he's like a New Yorker, and he tells, you know, I saw the Harinam, he said, and I was coming for the broads. And he followed the girls into the temple, and then he saw, and he met Prabhupada, and he, you know, he did a lot of service.
Wow. Okay. All right. Gangtaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki.